Hello everybody. Unfortunately, my laptop is a bit broken at the moment, so it's undergoing some kind of repair Windows thing. I'm not really a technical person, so because of that, I'm making a video which is just one monologue of me speaking all the way through. So if you find this kind of thing boring, switch off now. If you don't, please subscribe and hit the like button. And this video is going to be about overcoming obstacles and problems and blockages in languages when you learn language. So I have about 8 videos lined up to make. I've got a little notebook here with Frozen 2. I don't even like Frozen 2, but I've just got this notebook and I make my notes for my videos that I make in here. And I've got 8 different videos in my mind to make, but I can't make them because of my laptop. So this is the only one that I think I don't really need to edit. I can just say it, hopefully. Hopefully I won't go off on a tangent. So, and keep watching, hopefully. Please keep watching. So language problems, language blocks, language, let's call them obstacles, let's call them challenges. That's probably the better way to say it. So when you have a block, I'm going to go through the different kind of stages of language learning. So when you first start in a language, for very first beginners, you might find the content a bit overwhelming. So when you look through your teach yourself book, you might see all those characters that you have to learn, all those new alphabet characters, and they're all completely different pronunciations to what you're used to. And you might find it a bit kind of scary and overwhelming. So instantly, you've got this block that comes up. So, how do you start learning a language? When you choose to learn a language, where do you go? So these days it's much easier because you can go to the internet, and it's easier for big languages, like Spanish, French, German, all the usual ones that most people want to learn. You can find free apps like Duolingo. You can find courses and programs to do. So there's no problem there. So if that's the case, you can just get started, and there's often not a block in the beginning, so that's fine. But if you're approaching it from, as I said, like a teach yourself book or a language learning program, or if you're going to school or a class that you're just starting and you might get a bit behind the other students, how do you overcome this? Well, I think in the first stages of language learning, audio input is very important. So you need to kind of familiarize yourself with the sounds of language and try to start speaking from the beginning. Easier said than done, I know, but this will help you later on because it helps you build up your confidence. Secondly, if you're looking through a teach yourself book, I'm going to use this as an example. I'm going to grab one off my shelf because I've got quite a few here. I haven't planned this, so it's random. So I'm going to let's do colloquial Polish. So it's similar to a teach yourself book, Routledge Polish. These are very good books, and they're comprehensive because they have all the content you need in here to learn about all the grammar. But I think what puts people off in the beginning of learning a language is things like having all the alphabet presented straight away, and then you having to learn all these pronunciations immediately. So for me, when I read a book, or if I work through a book, I like to work through it systematically, and I don't like to move on until I've understood what I've learnt from the previous page. So I think this is why these sort of books don't work for me in a way. They do work sometimes when I go through them when I already know a little bit of the language at first, or sometimes I've had a look at a book and just skipped on, and then gone back to revise something I didn't understand. So I think these things take time to sink in, especially when everything is completely new. So, things like this, straight away you've got all these ways of how to pronounce the letters. And I would rather listen to a dialogue of something in the language and pick it up naturally. So let's talk about Stephen Krashen. If you haven't heard of Stephen Krashen, he was controversial in the 80s. He made a claim that language learning in schools wasn't very effective because they used this traditional method like this, going through systematically the alphabet, and it was very heavily focused on grammar and parrot fashion speaking. So the teacher would read out, I am, you are, he is, and you'd have to say it in that language. So Stephen Krashen's proposition was to have a method where you have something called comprehensible input. So the input that's going in the language has to mean something to you. So he did a presentation in completely in German, and first of all he did a presentation like this where he said he just said everything, and people couldn't understand because it was in German. And then he did another presentation, a second one, where he drew a face on a card, and as he was drawing it, he was saying what he was doing, and he was saying, "I'm drawing the nose, and these are the two eyes and the mouth." And as he said it, it made sense to me that I was learning more. I already know German anyway, so I didn't have any problem understanding both. But if it was a different language that I didn't know, I would maybe pick up some of the words that he was saying. So this is comprehensible input. So what I recommend is if you're starting out on a language and you have blocks, you have to look at which methods you're using and go back and try to have more audio input or more comprehensible input. So there are lots of programs on the internet nowadays. It's much easier to get content these days than it was. If you're learning a minority language, then it might be harder for you to find stuff. Also, trying to engage with people in the language is important, but obviously, when you first learn a language, you might not have that confidence to be able to try to speak straight away. But learning anything is about making mistakes, and that's the main way you learn. So I did make a video about this a few weeks ago, or was it 1 week ago? I'm not sure. If I can put a link to it, it's here. Okay, let's talk about language learning blocks with when you've had when you're into the language a little bit further on. So you may have been learning it for a little while, and then you don't feel like you're making any progress. So what are those blocks about? It could be boredom. So you could be using the same method over and over again. You might be using the same app. So for me, I've been using Glossica for learning Sorani Kurdish for the last few months. And at one stage, I did start finding it quite boring because it's the same way of teaching over and over again. It's just based on phrases repeated, repeated, repeated. And I found like I wasn't really engaging with the particular app. So I think it's something that you need to find something that you engage with, something that will test you and something that will show your progress. So if you've reached a stage where you feel like you're not making any more progress, try to have a look back over where you were before. And I bet you will find that you actually have made quite a lot of progress. So another recommendation is to maybe make videos of yourself speaking in the language. And then when you look back 2 months later, you'll see that you actually have made progress. Have a journal. So when you have a journal and you write down your language learning achievements, so you can say, oh, now I fully understand how to say the verb to be in the past tense in this language, something like this. It doesn't have to be a grammar thing. It could be, I had a conversation with so-and-so. And having this journal, you can look back and look at your achievements, and it will make you be more kind of inspired towards the future. The other thing is that I haven't mentioned is you could have a language learning target or goal. So a lot of people, when they first start out learning a language, they have a 3-month goal, 6-month goal, a year goal. And for me, I found that quite helpful when I was learning Croatian, for example. I did a language learning challenge in 2016, I think it was, 2018. And it was a 3-month language learning challenge. And I did nothing but learn Croatian for 3 months. Mind you, I've forgotten quite a lot of it. But I know if I go back to it, I'll be able to pick some up. And also that helped me with learning Polish because it's a related Slavic language. So what about if you reach a point where you know all the basics, you can kind of talk about yourself. You can do your monologue with saying that, hi, my name's Andy. I was born in London. I'm 59 years old, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I'm really 59 years old, by the way. And something, you get to this stage where you know all that, but you can't kind of progress on further. Perhaps it's time to start changing your content that you're learning from, and step up a bit. So give yourself a fresh challenge. So you could maybe give yourself a level up challenge, another 3 month challenge, and start watching more podcasts, watching films on Netflix. I have a Netflix playlist here. Hopefully that will come up with my finger. So it's kind of like developing and going on beyond your boundaries that you already have. It's kind of like almost being in a safety zone. I can speak this much language. I don't really need to speak anymore, or I feel like I can't progress anymore. So you need to kind of go to set yourself some new challenges. Maybe try to start reading a book in your chosen language. So at this stage, though, I think it's important to not do anything that's really way beyond your particular level. So, for example, if you're, say, like at A1 or A2 level and you're trying to read something that's C1, then a lot of it will be incomprehensible to you. So going back to Stephen Krashen's comprehensible input, you need something that you can understand, but that you're going to learn a bit from. So when it comes to reading books, watching films, you need to be able to understand a large content of it and then add to your knowledge by learning little bits and extra pieces. So you can't learn a language, you can't become fluent overnight. It does take time, and you can just keep developing and developing your language. So I think a good way is actually Netflix, because Netflix you can watch the subtitles at the same time as listening to the input. So providing you're learning a big language like French, Spanish, Chinese. A friend of mine recently said that there's not much content for Italian on Netflix, actually, which is a bit disappointing. I only found 18 TV series or films. And sometimes, like for me, I'm learning Polish, so I watch a lot of content in Polish, but a lot of it's not really my kind of thing. So a lot of it is slow burning dramas and crime programs, this kind of thing. So that's one of my videos I'm going to make about Polish Netflix. So here's a list of the videos I'm planning to make. One of them is about an indigenous language of Central America, which I want to share with you, how you can learn it if you want to, because I've got some links to resources, and how I learned a little bit of it a few years ago. So I've never mentioned this in any YouTube videos before, and it's called Lenka from Honduras. Another video I'm going to make is just in Chinese, me speaking Chinese, about how I learned Chinese and some of my language learning materials that I used. So that's one that I could actually do as a monologue as well. So I might do that one next. And a couple more Netflix videos in different languages. So specifically for those languages, because when you're learning with Netflix, the subtitles, you can get a lot out of the subtitles, but it depends on the language. For some languages, I think it works better than others, or you have to have a different kind of mentality with a different language. So anyway, that's content for another video. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have a block or kind of language learning struggle, I'd be grateful to hear about it in the comments underneath. And I'd be grateful to hear about how, if you overcame any blocks and what you did to do it. Just to mention as well that one of my blocks was in learning Kurdish, that I found at one stage that I was using Glossica and the sentences started getting a bit longer and longer, and new grammar sort of things were being introduced. So how did I deal with this? First of all, I was completely confused, and I found it a bit sort of discouraging because I wasn't making sense of any of it. And then I decided to step back and cut it into small pieces. So I cut the sentence up into the words I knew, and I thought, well, I already know about 75% of the words. 25% of the words are new to me. That's fine. But it wasn't that. It was the the grammar was completely weird because all the words were around the other way in English. And I know this language is this kind of language anyway. It's a subject, object, verb language, so the verb goes to the end. But it wasn't that straightforward. It was quite some complicated sentences were there. So what I did was I wrote down the sentences word for word in English rather than translating them, which Glossica already does anyway. I wrote them down word for word underneath and tried to think in Kurdish. So if I was making a new sentence, I would try to say it in English like a Kurdish person would if they didn't know English grammar. Hope that makes sense. Thanks for watching. My battery's running out now, so I'm having severe technical problems. Hope you like this monologue. It's just a rant and a rave and a suggestion and everything. Take care, stay safe. See you soon.